There are about 1 million homes in the state of Utah. So how do you accurately assess the value of them for property taxes each year? While appraisals and taxation aren't glamorous, they are the foundation of your local government. So county assessors from every county have been working for a decade on a solution to take advantage of technology and move the assessment process into the cloud. How will it benefit you? Lots of ways, and you'll find out on The County Seat coming up next. The County Seat is brought to you this week by Jones and DeMille Engineering, helping to shape your quality of life. Find out more at jonesanddemille.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The County Seat today. I'm your host, Chad Booth. We are bringing you this show from the headquarters of the Utah Association of Counties today. What we would like to ask is a riddle question. What is an MCAT? For some people, it may sound like a transportation system or a transit authority. Other people might think it's a medical procedure. You go into the hospital for an MCAT. So we're going to find out a little bit about what MCAT means and why it has become such a big word to Utah's county assessors.
Providing services to the community is a core function of local governments. Those services need to be paid for, and so we have taxes. One of the key challenges for local governments is keeping taxes equitable. In the case of the property tax, that task falls to the assessor's office, and equity is dependent on an accurate record of value of the properties being taxed.
Local government is basically funded through local taxes. You have sales tax and you have the property tax. The property tax really doesn't go anywhere else but local. And so one of the key benefits is everyone's paying their fair share. So the bar is set at what is your property value worth? And that is legislatively mandated for us to determine that. That way there's an equity in the system. So those who own higher valued properties, based on how the system is set up, they are paying more taxes.
Property valuation is evaluated annually in order to maintain equity and accuracy in the property tax. However, the individual appraisal of every property, well, that's not practical. Instead, the assessor's office utilizes CAMA, computer-aided mass appraisal software. But until recently, each county was working with their own vendor and system.
You've got 17 counties that are in the 4th, 5th, and 6th class, which represent only about 8% of the total value of the state. Or on the other side, you've got Salt Lake County that represents about 33% of all the value in the state. So there's this huge range of processes. And the whole concept of MCAT was to bring everybody together so that everyone could benefit off the economy of scale.
Working together, Utah's 29 counties have built a solution for the state, a cloud-based software as a service called PUMA, which will provide a savings to all of the counties.
Our whole objective of this project was to centralize resources. That's what MCAT was set up to do. And by centralizing the resources, we were hoping that we would see a savings. And that savings is actually based on technology, leveraging technology. If we were to do this in the older systems, you'd see a need for a lot more people. But through technology, we don't have to hire as many people, which keeps your taxes down. And then we're offering this same package to smaller counties that just don't have the resources to begin with, so that they can be more productive at the levels that they staff at.
10 counties are currently utilizing the MCAT solution for assessing. Larger counties are coming online in the coming months as more robust features are released. For the County Seat, I'm Derek Dowsett.
Well, now we have some background on MCAT. We will assess the situation and record the history of it when we come back on the County Seat. Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking about MCAT today. Joining us for the conversation is Mark Garrison, who is the Salt Lake County PUMA Director, yet another an acronym that we need to come up with, and Pat Manus, who is the chairman of the MCAT board, and Chris Paulson, Utah County Assessor. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. I want to start with a question of people are going, why are we doing something else? Why are we doing something different? Why is this so important for county assessors across the state to have this program?
And that question came up over a decade ago. We're here at the UAC building. Brent Gardner was the chair of UAC at that time, and he asked the same question. He said, why are all the counties purchasing their own systems? Wouldn't it be more advantageous to get on one system where everybody's money is being poured into one system? So he got a sponsor to run a bill. The bill passed. The sponsor of the bill actually won an award from the largest assessment organization in America for being the most progressive bill they've seen in over a decade. And so we had a lot of eyes watching us. We sent out RFPs to narrow it down to just one vendor. We actually had 2 RFPs go out. Salt Lake wanted something that also had a collection piece in it, where the assessors sent the RFP out through UAC to just get a valuation piece. Fortunately, they both selected the same vendor. So we all came together. Everything seemed to be going well. We were implementing. And then in 2013, the vendor took out bankruptcy. Oh. And that really set everything back, not only for us, but they had organizations in Oregon and Santa Barbara County in California. And so when they went into bankruptcy, we started asking the question, someone's going to buy it out of bankruptcy, we can go with them, or we can actually do this ourselves. We have a lot of talent, and we understand how all of this works. So why don't we just take a look at about doing this ourselves? So we had the MCAT umbrella, which includes all 29 counties. And we did a test pilot down in Utah County. The developers down there did a prototype. And after it looked like it was feasible, we then proceeded to actually build our own system here in Utah.
You know, there are some people who, whenever a government tries to do something, say, why are you competing with the private sector? But I guess sometimes it makes sense to actually own and control a process. Would that be the case here?
We went down the private sector road to begin with, and we ended up in bankruptcy. It had nothing to do, everything was outside of our control, because all the other, Santa Barbara County, Multnomah County, which is Portland, Oregon, there were counties back east, they all took the same hit we did. And so when we decided to do it ourselves, we were actually taking on our own destiny at that point. This was something that had to work, and we were all going to make sure that it worked. It was controversial even within MCAT. Not everyone supported the concept. But gradually, we've gotten to the point where now that we've implemented and proven that it does work, we're getting a lot more support even internally. So you're right. There is that question. The private sector does this. Why not allow them to do it for you? The flip side of that is we're in Utah, and every time we go to a vendor, most of them want to make us fit what everybody else is doing, other than how it works in Utah. Because as you know, property tax in California is very different than it is here in Utah.
And I had to follow that on Chris's point. In Salt Lake County, when we were implementing, we are the largest county, and so we looked at what MCAT and PUMA was doing, and we are on our own path with an independent vendor, and found that their performance of how fast the system operated was just not going to deal with our volumes. And several years ago, we took a look at what PUMA was doing and found that it generated, it could process everything we could throw at it plus a lot more in the future. And we said, That on top of the fact that it was being developed by developers who understood Utah statutes. Chris is exactly right. It's a lot easier when the people that are doing the development understand what they're trying to produce for the customer. So we jumped on it about 2 years ago, and we're really looking forward to implementing it in June.
Does the public records issue play into this at all?
Public records issues primarily boil down to the county individuals because the counties own their data. We're just hosting the data.
Okay, that, it's just a point that I'm sure viewers at home would come up with and say, oh, well, is my property information is secure from people making requests to find out about my information? But I guess that doesn't really make a difference in this case.
It actually, you bring up a good point. Security is a big issue. We actually had a data breach down in Garfield County, which is not on our system. They're on a previous system, in which they actually got a ransomware that happened and actually had to buy their data back. We're hosting in a Microsoft environment in the cloud. All of Microsoft's certifications on security have been reached and validated. Everything we do is trying to make the information more secure than it's ever been.
Do you think that MCAT is doing more to accomplish this than, say, a private vendor would as far as making that data secure?
Well, a lot of private vendors rely on the county to host their own databases. And that was what happened in Garfield County, and that's what happens in a lot of counties in Utah. This is really the only SaaS solution that I'm aware of that we're actually hosting the data for the counties in a secure environment. Most of the time the vendor is just relying on the county and their IT support. So if you've got a very small county, I can guarantee you their IT support is probably on scale with the size of the county. In Garfield's position, they really didn't have a database administrator, so things got laxed a little bit more than they were what they even desired it to be. And unfortunately, someone took advantage of that, and it cost Garfield County a lot of money.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to delve into some of the practical applications of it, because I know if you're like me, you're still, the data may be in the cloud, but so is my understanding. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the procedural part of how this works and how it improves the lives for the counties and their assessing function. We'll be right back on the County Seat. Welcome back to the County Seat. We are having a discussion today about MCAT, and I think it would be really, really helpful for people to try and put this into a daily perspective. So if you're running an assessor's office and you're trying to keep track of the property values, how does MCAT change things on a daily basis?
Well, one of the challenges that we had as MCAT and PUMA is that the counties require the same a system that does the same thing and ends up with the same product, but how we get there is in 2 or 3 different processes. And so in my particular county, Millard County, we gather the sales data, we put it into our system, then we take a cost system and we factor it based on sales, which is a little bit different than what Salt Lake County and Utah County do. So that became a challenge for PUMA. How do we fit what the small counties need, and how do we also meet what the large counties need?
And so what's the process in Salt Lake County?
So we do cost valuation, but we also do model valuation on sales as well as income valuation. And working with the PUMA team has worked out really very well because they've incorporated some of the processes that do apply just to the large counties while still supporting the smaller counties in their methods. So it also involves integrating third-party vendors into the package, which is something we were not able to do with our existing software.
Perhaps people don't really understand what an assessor does on a daily basis, but he gathers data. He looks at real property and he gathers all of the pertinent data to determine what market value is. And that's where these systems come in handy, is entering this data into this system, so then we can come up with a credible value of what the state wants, market value.
And this is important because when you bought your home, you had to get an appraisal on the house. It took a little while.
You did?
That's one house. In Utah County, we have to come up with 200,000 values every year. And so we need a mass product that can calculate and do all of this in, as Mark said, models and other parts, income. And also we run costs just like Millard County does in the smaller ones, but we have to come up with these values every single year. We're actually tested on these values by the State Tax Commission. And if we're not in compliance, the State Tax Commission actually issues corrective action orders against us. So this is all in trying to keep equity within the tax system. And so that's why it's important to have a system that works for everybody and everybody's on the same.
Okay, just a funny side thought that hit. Okay, does the State Tax Commission need to use this system on centrally assessed taxes? Would that improve things?
No comment.
I thought that might be the case. You know, that actually brings up a good point. Does the system as it now functions, has anybody noticed a change in people who are contesting their property values?
I don't think we've actually done an analysis on that. And I only state that because across the board, because values have been going up, appeals tend to decrease because values are going up. When values drop, then we get decreases. I mean, as values drop, we get an increase in appeals. We've seen this in 2008. Values really shot up, and then suddenly, when they started going down, we had more people appealing than they did before.
One would almost natively think it would be the opposite of that. If your property keeps going up, that's when you're motivated to say, oh, this isn't fair. I want to appeal this.
Everybody likes to know an asset that they own is going up in value, except when they hear it from us. Yes.
In answer to your question about appeals, this system, I think, actually helps create equity system-wide, not only through the state, but within the counties, helps create equity so that we do have a system that is effective to pull the data out and defend the value that we've put.
What is the value that MCAT is bringing to the population of Utah?
Well, MCAT pulls together all of the assessors throughout the county as one body to create a system that works, as I said earlier, works for every county. And so what it does is it brings us together to discuss the problems, to work on the problems, and then come up with solutions. And that's where the organization of MCAT really helps in the value or in the process of getting valuations.
And then if there's a tweak needs to be made, then you can kind of put it into your own programming and change the program a little bit so that it fits.
And that's right. I mean, and that's exactly right. The PUMA product, the software being used by all the counties, is giving us an opportunity to have common training that all the counties will be able to see how to do online training, how to use PUMA, but also amend it to deal with their own special rules and their own special practices. But it basically lets us really spread the cost of that training. You do it once, but then everybody can use it. The software is something that you can trade best practices among the different offices. And it's something that the benefits or the features that are developed for one county become available to the other counties. And they may choose to use them, and they may choose not. But it's kind of they're all operating under the same set of statutes, that there's an advantage of having it be shared among all these counties.
So it's kind of like it's got a built-in collaboration module as part of the process. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and continue this very interesting conversation about a topic most people wouldn't think would be interesting at all, MCAT. We'll be right back on the County Seat. Welcome back to the County Seat. We're talking about felines, MCATs and PUMAs. And one last thing about the software. What advantage do counties have in using this kind of software that sits far, far away in the cloud?
So one of the important advantages of the way the software is built is it's built in the cloud using something called virtual machines. What that really means, instead of having a computer in your office or in some specific data center, always there whether you use it or not, you can add resources or subtract them when you don't need them. And the assessor's job becomes very, very busy towards the end of the year, towards May, when we're crunching all the numbers and trying to come up with values. And so this architecture lets each county use whatever amount of horsepower they need and buy it when they need it, and then turn it off when they don't.
So somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm seeing a desktop sitting there handling the efforts of the county for most of the year, and then one of those big clean rooms for just that small portion with all the wheels and tapes and cards spitting out. Is that?
In essence, that is exactly what it is. You know, you can add all different types of resources, be it computer, storage, whatever you need to process the load at that time, and then turn it off.
Do you think that actually makes it less expensive for counties? I mean, is there any, have you gotten any hard evidence of saying, well, we used to have to like upgrade the computer, the database, blah, 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 and now we're only just purchasing processing power?
Well, there's a lot of hidden costs in that. You know, so what you say is if I'm buying a computer and upgrading it, well, there's all the support people and all the skills that they have to support the latest version of the software, the latest version of the hardware. Those all are now part of the cost of turning that on and off in the cloud. So it's kind of a hard question to answer because you might just look at a maintenance cost, but it's all the other people you have to keep trained if you were trying to do it yourself.
Which is a huge advantage in Utah because Utah primarily has a lot of small counties.
Yeah.
And so by centralizing all of this, as Mark has stated, we're actually able to spread costs out. And in some places, we're actually providing a service they've never had before.
Wow, this is excellent. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time today. Remember, local government is where your life happens. Be part of the process, be part of the solution, be involved. Share this with your friends on social media, and we will look for you next week on The County Seat.
Thank you for watching The County Seat. Be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications to keep up to date on the program and happenings around Utah.